I am me. I will never pretend to be another. I will never want to be another. I will not change who I am just to fit in. I am me. I am not perfect, but I'm working on myself, working to become the best version of myself. Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
When it comes to autism, finding the right words can be tough. Finding understanding doesn't have to be. With your help, we can increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism. Learn how you can help create a brighter life on the spectrum. Go to autismspeaks.org.
Yes, I'm not putting on a show no more. I'm not gonna act to fit in. Yeah, I might not be perfect, but I'm working on my best version. I'm on my way. Yes, I'm on my way. If I have to, I walk alone. Being myself is all that I know. Want me to change to fit in, I won't. I am me. I can't pretend to be what I'm not. In my own way, I know I'm strong. I am free to do what I want. I am me. Oh, yeah. If I have to, I walk alone. Being myself is all that I know. Want me to change to fit in, I won't. I am me. I can't pretend to be what I'm not. In my own way, I know I'm strong. I am free to do what I want. I am me. Oh, yes. I am me. Yeah. I am me. Yeah. Yes, I am. Yeah. I am me. Yeah. I'm not putting on a mask no more. I've got my own life to live. There's so much more I can give. I walk my own path. Won't pretend to be another. Never want to be another. Won't apologize for being me. It's all I can be.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled board work session, April 8th, 2024. We do allow for a public agenda on both our board meetings each month, on the work session, as well as our regularly scheduled board meeting. We do not have any one on public agenda. And with that, I would just continue to say welcome all. I know we have Mary Ann Richtner here and Ms. Price for the library. Thank you so much for joining us. Are there any administrators, leadership team? Right here, Dorothy Height. Thank you. And with that, I will go to Ms. Buckner for our education meeting. We have 3 items. Hit your microphone.
Anybody have want to say anything about the newsletter or want anybody? Okay, it looked nice. Let's move on to the next item, which is the Youth Art Month. Here we go.
Hit that microphone for me.
Is that better?
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm glad to be here tonight. My name is Dr. Virginia McCullough, and I am your Visual and Performing Art Content Specialist. I serve 48 of your visual art teachers. I have 27 elementary teachers, 13 middle school art educators, and 9 high school art educators. This year has brought significant growth and development in the visual art programs here in Muscogee County School District, some of which have already been featured in your detailed newsletters. This year, tonight's detailed newsletter features Youth Art Month, and I'll get to that a little bit, unpack that more for you in just a minute. However, what I'm here tonight about is to unpack the significant increase in connections and collaborations that we've had that has really fostered a dynamic creative growth in our students. So let's take a glance. We started off the year, that was my fault, because I put music in the background of the presentation, which I really like, but it's not appropriate for this forum. Anyway, we started off the year in a unique fashion, something that I am not aware that we've done before in this district, and that is have all fine arts educators in one space. So the River Center was kind enough to host us. And we had everyone gather and had community, collaborations, professional development that was applicable to every district or discipline area of the fine arts. But mostly what we created that day was a collective sense of purpose and camaraderie. And so we started off the year with a bang. Not often do all art educators get in a room together, and we did that day. So we started off on the right foot. Not only does our connections and collaborations reach district-wide, we also reach a global connection. We have a cultural exchange with our sister city in Japan named Kiru. This was started in 1978, which is significant. And we have an artistic cultural exchange every year. This year, our students from Richards Middle School and Rainey McCullough School of the Arts worked together before they even met virtually. We've been virtual since COVID. They met for several weeks before via email exchanges. And then we met for 4 weeks. We studied Japanese calligraphy. We talked about, we had a song that was exchanged back and forth. We played literary games, but by far the students' favorite part was the cultural exchange of snacks. Our snacks are very different in America than in Japan. And I actually had the pleasure of studying in Kiri myself, and the snacks are phenomenal. So that was really fun and exciting, and really created a connection with the students. We are in the works to bring Kiri students to our city next academic year, and we're looking forward to that. So we'll just continue to grow that sisterhood, and that connection with them is very special, very special. We also have a new pilot exchange that we're doing with Columbus State University and Passaquan. Now, Passaquan is one of our regional cultural arts centers. It's actually registered with the historic registry as a National Historic space, and it's a place for cultural and visionary artists. So we work directly with Professor Mike McFalls, who's the director of Passaquan and also professor of sculpture, and also directs the Bo Bartlett Center at CSU, with 2 groups of high school students, some from Northside and some from Hardaway, both led by their art educators, Mr. Scott Black and Miss Katie Black. And we met for several Saturdays. The students came themselves, and we were out there taking an approach to Passaquan as an experiential and also kind of a laboratory approach on how to restore art in our community, what it means to the community. They worked on engineering practices there. They learned techniques that they weren't aware of. And we hope to continue to grow this program. The students, we had great results with engagement there. And I really enjoyed seeing The high school students talk to their art educators who are talking to their potential maybe art professors. We hope to keep them in Columbus and send them to Columbus State University, of course. And so that exchange was great. So we're continuing to grow those bonds. This year, we were blessed enough to host the Vessels Conference at Columbus State University, but Muscogee County School District is the one that hosted it. We sold out. That does not happen with the Georgia Art Education Association conferences. I have been involved in those since I've been an art educator from way too long ago. I'm not going to tell you that year, but we sold out. I, in fact, ran that conference and I had to cap it, which a lot of people were upset about, but because we sold out. We had over 100 workshops. We had Cassie Stevens as our keynote speaker, who is so dynamic and speaks to the retention of art teachers in our school system, school systems across the nation. She's very popular. She had a standing ovation at her keynote. We had several of our Muscogee County art educators attend. You can see here 20 of us is in this picture, and several of them present workshops. They were integral in putting on the conference. It was such a success. If you'll move to the next slide, you can see the workshops were dynamic, and this is the #1, Georgia Art Education Association is the #1 professional opportunity space for our art educators throughout the state and the nation. The National Art Education Association, there's part of that. And so we had great partners as well, you know, CSU, Fab Arts, Pear, the Bo Bartlett Center, and the Springer wanted to be part of this. They asked us to be part of this, and they gave their time, their money, their attention, and their intelligence and their expertise. The whole goal for this conference was to build self and collective efficacy. A lot of times our art educators feel isolated because they're only educator on campus. So this was a time for them to say, you can build your own efficacy, but look around to the people in your school. They don't have to be art educators to help you have collective efficacy. You need to work with your science teachers, your math teachers, your English teachers, your administration, because you're all part of a bigger family. They don't have to be art educators to be your fellow educators. So that was a really exciting time, and everyone was very happy during that conference. I was very grateful. Then the Columbus Ballet reached out to us and wanted us to bring students to the Nutcracker. Well, I didn't just want to take students to the Nutcracker just to see the Nutcracker. I wanted them to understand what was happening. So we partnered with them this year. We're going to continue to grow this partnership. We had 10 schools, 37 classes. 37 classes that we pushed into. Ben Travers came with me. He was phenomenal. He's our science and social studies elementary content specialist. And he taught forces in motion. He taught about simple machines. I came in and taught about cool and warm colors and how it affects a performance. And then the ballerinas came in. And they talked about the Nutcracker, the story, the scene, the setting. The teachers were there. They talked about, how does this apply to how we write, kids? Do we talk about scene and setting when we're writing? How does this apply to what we're doing with social studies? It was phenomenal. And this, as you can see here, the students got to see how toe shoes work. They got to ask the dancers, what do they do, and why ballet? And so when they showed up for the performance at the River Center, they were blown away. And some of them stood up and was like, that's my ballerina. I saw her, she came to my school. So it was just fantastic. It was a wonderful experience, and we're going to continue to grow that as well. We're continuing also to have collaboration with Columbus State University and the Bo Bartlett Center. And I do want to take a moment right now to just say thank you to the Bo Bartlett Center. If you are not involved in their programming and what they do for the community, I just really advise you to seek them out. They're on the River Center or the River Parkway campus of Columbus State University. They have a beautiful space. They're adjacent to the Corn Center for the Visual Arts. And they have a program called Arts Makes You Smart. Well, at this time, you can see a young man there named Grayson Strumpler. He's one of their art education students. And I wanted my art educators to be involved more with the art education students that are coming through Columbus State University, because of course I want to recruit them. But at the same time, they need to see how awesome our kids are. I don't want them just going to Atlanta or going other places to teach. I want them to see how great our kids are. So we took the whole third grade of Fox Elementary students to the Bo Bartlett Center. And the art education students led them through different processes there. They explored ceramics, they explored printmaking, they explored photography, or a printmaking process that actually has to do with photography, which was really cool. And just being in that space and having ownership of this could potentially be my university, this could potentially be where I study, was really powerful, and the kids had a great time. And then the art educators in training there are able to say, this might be who the kids I want, these are the kids I want to teach in the future. So that was my goal for that. We're going to continue to grow that. We also had a community partner, a business owner reach out, Mr. Woodruff, who at this time was building the Highside Market and had asked for a mural to be painted. Worked with Sally Bradley, who is a phenomenal art educator or teacher, professor down at CSU. And she said, this painter's coming in to paint this mural. How can we get kids involved? Well, I knew that Ms. Mumpower at Winton Arts Academy was pursuing STEAM education. And part of STEAM education is community involvement, and to have the kids have a voice in that and what they want to do. So I reached out to Ms. Mumpower, who is the administrator at Winton, as y'all know, and she was so on it. So we arranged for students from Winton Arts Academy, all ages, all grades, to come on a Saturday and to work directly with the artist, Charity. I'm going to try to say her name the right way because she was phenomenal. Her engagement with the kids was amazing, Hamadullah. And she worked with both Sally Bradley, Sally Baker, because she works now for you may know her from the Springer Academy, she works now for the Georgia Department of Education and STEAM Education. Winton Arts Academy is pursuing STEAM education, which is amazing. But part of that is the community involvement, like as I stated before. These kids worked with the artist, interviewed the artist, their own interview questions that they came up with, and interviewed Mr. Woodruff. At one point, they had him in tears, and it was really neat to witness. I thought that they would never leave. We actually kind of had to run the kids off at the end of the day, and Charity ended up turning it into an amazing piece. So if every time you go to the Highside Market, look at that mural that's in that picture, and it was actually featured in the Valley magazine, Valley Parent Magazine, which is the February-March edition, and it is phenomenal. So that was very, very special time for us and the kids. Okay, in February, we had the art throwdown at CSU. This is a time for the students at high school students to come. A lot of your high school art teachers participate in this and brought their students, and they just have a great time showing their creative growth. They do really neat projects. They actually have art competitions. I've been involved in an art throwdown for years and years now, and I remember specifically a time where kids are sitting across from each other and both drawing portraits, and who can draw the best portrait, and it's like an athletic competition, but it's about portraiture, and it was really cool, and they did that, and this is one of the pictures there is doing a mural competition, so think athletics via the arts. We also have a very special opportunity, again, through the Georgia Art Education Association, to go and advocate for the arts on a statewide level. And Miss Tammy Brown from Spencer, she was able to take a student up there, and I got to meet her. And we met Mr. Representative Teddy Reese, who was phenomenal at the Capitol. And she was able to advocate for the arts, talk about her piece of art. They walked around, met other students from all over the state that had submitted art to this to this exhibition. And then he took her for a private tour to the Capitol. And she got to go in there, and so that was a really special time. So we continue to advocate, not only in our own space, but across the state. This is the culmination of everything we've done this year. You can see on this slide the precious faces of your art educators. And so each year we have the Georgia Art Education Association, well, the National Art Education Association has deemed March as Youth Art Month. And so we have a district-wide art exhibition. And this year the Columbus Library was very kind to host us. And so we had an exhibition from March 4th to 8th. Every night was a different reception. We had over 1,500 pieces of art exhibited, which the art teachers put up. We'll talk about that in just a second. And we had between 200 and 300 attendees each night. So that was very amazing. And there was no one cried. Everyone was smiling and having a ball. And we had little Debbie cakes, and that was a big hit. And it was very fun. So not only are your art educators professionals, but they also can put up display racks on their own and figure it out. So they're engineers. And so we had a professional development day. The first day started off with unpacking the DTL, which you are aware of, Blueprint, which is on your Canvas page, the learning management program that we have, Canvas, not Canva, that we're using tonight, but Canvas. And in the Blueprint, I have created a observational tool for administrators. What should an art room look like if you were to walk in it and you're not necessarily nuanced in the arts, right? Because it's a different space than your academic classrooms typically. And how does that align with the Georgia Standards of Excellence, personalized learning, and the process of creation that we're rolling out? What should it look like? What should it feel like? And these specific district expectations that are outlined in that. And so that was our professional development in the morning. And then we went to the library and set up. And so it was a lot of fun. You can see a lot of collaboration. The picture on the bottom left are 3 brand new male art educators talking and collaborating and sharing ideas. And so it was really kind of special for me to walk around and click a picture of that, because we don't have time to be together on the same campus typically. And so that was really a special time. And we got a lot done and a lot of lesson plans shared and thoughts shared. And so I was very grateful for that. And so they were everywhere. So they came every night. They met their parents. They met their students. Smiles everywhere. Kids had a ball. And it really showed me how their efficacy has lent to dynamic, and I'm going to say exponential as well, creative growth in our students. And that is also because of your support. And I am grateful to work in a district that loves the arts. And it's evident because we wouldn't have people wanting to work with us if y'all didn't love the arts and support us. So you can see this art, really, I mean, it is amazing. They continue to amaze me. And then look at this is my favorite picture of the whole week. If you'll look at her face. Is she not the most proud? So we really do. The arts touch so many capacities, but the whole child, emotional, social well-being, the interdisciplinary approach, everything STEAM education, and it all is evident in her face. And so thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing me to share this with you today. Does anybody have any questions?
All wonderful things. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to thank Dr. McCullough for her leadership and expansion of the arts and giving different venues and opportunities for our students. And of course, all of our dedicated art teachers who every day go in and provide opportunities for our students to demonstrate their creativity. And that leads right into innovation and all the things we want to see in creative workers. So thank you for all that you're doing to support the arts and the visual arts and performing arts in our district, as well as all of our dedicated teachers. Certainly do appreciate it. Of course, I want to encourage our students to always continue to explore art in all of its many forms. So thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Good
I do
job.
have one thing to say.
Of course.
I was at the airport in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yes, ma'am.
and we had artwork displayed in the, when you walk from the long-term line, actually, on the screen. But, you know, I was real impressed. I didn't even know we had a side in the Atlanta airport like that with all this artwork if you want to walk instead of taking the terminals,
Right.
you can walk and admire all the artwork.
Isn't
from
that
various-
wonderful?
It was, and it's fixed up really nice.
We have a lot of, that's for high school students, and we do have students that participate in that. This is a snapshot of what we do. Oh, we do so much, and we have got great high school art teachers that do so much. So yes, we are participating in that, and that is also through the Georgia Art Education Association, which was a huge privilege for them to allow us to host their conference this year. I don't think I'll do it again, it was a lot of work, but it was phenomenal.
That was outstanding. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for all that you do, Ms. McCullough.
Thank you, and Mrs. Green, that concludes the Education Committee.
Next is the Policy Committee, Ms. Tillery. If you would hit your mic. Hit your mic. Hit your mic.
What's not in this report? You go to it. Policy 4.01, a personnel policy revision. The recommended action is approve board policy revisions for policies JLA, JGI, DIE, and BHB. The revisions include board policy additions for weapons on school property and employee code of conduct, as dictated by board policy BDC. Policy adoption, these policy revisions will be carried over to the May meeting for final adoption. Do you want me to read the current policy and then the updates? I'm sorry? Just the updates. The board policy JLA, gifts to staff. The updates read, employees of Muscogee County School District shall not receive any gift of greater than $50 or collect gifts from any one or more of the students, parents, employees, firms, vendors, or potential vendors who are involved in business dealings with the district exceeding this value during the school year.
Oh, yeah, I have a question. Well, I'd like some background on this, because it's kind of broad. And I don't mean it bad, but as a parent of a student, I don't know that, if the teacher said they needed some supplies sometime, I would give them more than $50. So I'm trying to process it.
So all of these are based on we were looking at the employee conduct. In general, we have several board policies on that, and we were looking through with Halbu Smith some of the opportunities to clear some of these things up. And one of the items that had come up was that most school districts have somewhere between $50 and $100 limit to helping out a teacher or an educator or someone within the school district. So this helps to limit. They suggested 50, but there are a few that have 100. So if that's something that you would recommend, please do. But that we wanted to start somewhere because we didn't really have any limits. It was just blank.
I guess, well, one, and I don't know who's looked at this yet for the wording. I was a little concerned about the collected from students, because one part is if a parent said, hey, I want to collect gifts for a teacher, and it came from multiple students, it sounds like you couldn't exceed $50 here. So
You could, and so that's the question is how do you establish a level of consistency to ensure that people are getting the same amount of support, and also not go too far above? I mean, what if a student or the parents are in a position where they could provide more to the teacher that they have in one particular area, but another teacher doesn't get that opportunity? How do we manage that?
They may
I
not want to
understand that,
give.
but it also concerns me, because then we're not allowing some people to raise money at all because everybody can't have it. So it's kind of penalizing. I guess,
Raising money is different than a gift, though. That's
well,
what
but
you're.
kind of the same thing. But I mean, again, if at the beginning of the school year, the teacher said they needed certain supplies. And I mean, I don't even mean I've probably helped do stuff at other schools, even where my
You might be
child
able to
is.
explain it a little bit better.
I don't know. I think
They're not
this is
the
kind of a low, I'd like for it worded better.
Thank you. For the purposes of this policy, a teacher that is collecting or donation to the teacher is not the same as a gift. So this is specifically a gift to the teacher, not for the classroom. Donations don't fall under this policy.
Well, now, you
And I think we
know,
need to word it differently, because if I were a teacher, I would see this and think,
It's the
if
same.
somebody gave me $100 Target gift card to buy school supplies, that it violated this.
well, in addition, elementary school teachers in particularly get a lot of gifts.
That's what I was saying.
And so collectively, I can see it exceeding $50. I could see that easily.
But I mean,
And
Because
recurring.
if you have 20 kids and 5 of the parents gave you a $10 Starbucks card, or 6, you're now in violation, which that's like a popular gift. It says from any one or more of the students, parents, employees, firms, vendors. If you took out the parents, first of all, did Hall Booth Smith work with us?
Through every single one of these. This all came from, this is part of the discussion with them about employee conduct.
Maybe vendors, firms, vendors, or potential vendors, are my thoughts, but parents
parents and students, and I mean,
and students, just maybe some unintentional occurrences, especially since the tradition, since the beginning of time. Parents show their appreciation to their teachers.
Every holiday,
And, you know,
every holiday.
huh?
I was just saying, every day, all holiday, I think we all had the same concerns, because
Yeah.
we have children and we know what we give to our
Yeah,
teachers.
we always,
Every holiday, we're gonna give something to our teachers at the end of the year.
teacher
You know,
appreciation
Teacher
week.
appreciation, Christmas, and sometimes Thanksgiving, and we just give them stuff, you know, because they do something nice.
And has
So-
there been an issue that we're trying to resolve, or I mean, I just didn't know if there was something that you were trying to address with this, or just trying to get,
Some clarity and consistency.
okay, so, yeah.
Yes.
Because I know even if you did a gift tree from the students and each kid gave $5, you would be in violation.
yeah. I think, and don't get me wrong, there's part of this I really like, because I've had some concerns when we've had vendors participate, and I've been pretty vocal about it in different capacities, so I very much like limiting that. I don't feel good about the parents and students. I get that, yeah, it might raise a flag if I gave my son's English teacher $200, because we might worry that I was trying to get him a good grade. So I understand that. I think, though, that we might want to say 100 and take away the collected part of it, so that it's from an individual student. And I even think beyond that, at that point, like in my work, if we get something from, you know, different things, it's not that we can't get it, we then have to report it. And so maybe even then there could be a little area that if for some reason I did give $200, it didn't say I couldn't do it, it just needed to be reported to a principal or somebody, so that maybe then the principal would make sure that my child didn't get, you know, special treatment.
Right, the whole point here is about ethics and that sort of thing, so it's just
Exactly.
trying to find the right amount and the right,
Yeah, I don't want to curtail the ability for, you know, parents to help.
gift.
sure.
Yeah.
And we want the same. We just wanted to make sure that we add a level of fairness and clarity and consistency to it. But I've captured your suggestions, and I'll send another revision for that one. But you have a few more.
And I think Dr. Anderson made a good point that it's different from fund, but we'd need to probably state that in here as well, because that, again, as a teacher, I would have read this and thought, I couldn't even ask for stuff that would get me in, you know, in trouble.
The definition of, I want to make sure that we make it clear what's
Yeah.
the definition between
And maybe some
donation and
examples.
gift. With examples, that's.
Yeah, the elementary school teachers start the year out with the wish list, so.
They sure do.
Well,
But
this year
trust
they're
me, a
gonna,
lot of times was more
And
than
when the
$50.
When the supplies get low, the list come back up.
Yeah,
You know, we
that's
have
a
blown out
donation,
supplies.
so I would hope that, because we give,
No, I have to read the rest.
Yeah.
even as a
Okay.
school
I wanna
district, we give
weigh in.
donations
Oh, yeah.
to all the
Uh,
teachers.
I also want to say, I like the idea that you're trying to identify it, you know, because it was open-ended before you tried to put some kind of guidelines to it. It was just wide open, you know. So it was a good thing to try to define it better.
add that consistency.
I want to reiterate what Lori just said about having some type of disclosure. And then if we could look at the part that says during the school year, because if a parent wants to give something at Christmas, that means Valentine's Day or Thanksgiving or the teacher's birthday would then be excluded as well. So I like the up to a certain amount and then anything after that disclose, and have some type of way to disclose that you are receiving a gift outside of that amount.
Now, hope we're not trying to put some more documentation on it. I know teachers got the document now. We put some more work on it, you know?
Because would this be per gift? Would this be per gift, or would it be collective, like Kia was saying? Like, would they add up everything from the beginning of the year?
It says collective, but that's one of the
Okay.
things the discussion is about, is how do we capture that? And I think a big piece is gonna be to separate the donations from the gifts. And I think that's gonna really manage what you're looking for.
Okay, the next revision is Board Policy JGI, Child Abuse or Neglect. And the revision reads, individuals who report suspected abuse or neglect or otherwise participate in a proceeding are immune from any civil or criminal liability that might result when reporting these cases, provided that such report or participation is made in good faith.
Sorry, I have a question again on this. And has Hall Booth looked at this?
I couldn't hear you.
Has Hall Booth looked at this as well?
Every single one of these is
Okay.
from Paul. We've had.
I
review
know
with
that
Paul.
people are immune, but I don't think we can give them immunity. I think we have to, I think we would need, I think we would need to cite the actual, like, state code that gives them immunity. I mean, I don't think we ourselves can tell our employees they're immune from criminal liability.
It's not immunity from criminal liability, it's retaliation. So if
It
I
says
make a,
immune.
if I make a, it's about retaliation, not immunity from criminal. It's like immune from being sought after in case they made a claim and someone goes after them because they're retaliating against them for making a claim.
I think that needs to get
So I can change the
reworked,
wording
yeah.
too.
It says any civil.
Yeah, because, I mean, yeah, we can't give them immunity. I mean, I do think there's immunity under statutes, but that would have to come, would need to be cited as such.
Okay.
Any more questions on that one, revision? Okay. This is Board Policy DIE, Theft and Fraud Prevention. So the revision is adding theft and fraud prevention, the theft part. And the definition of theft, also known as larceny, is the trespasser taking and carrying away of property, funds, materials, supplies, and/or paid work time for personal gain or profit from the district without any advanced supervisory approval and with the intent to steal. And then theft is just added anywhere where fraud, waste, abuse, or corruption. And then the bottom part of the revision is to avoid the perception of theft, fraud, waste, abuse, or corruption, fundraising on behalf of a school or Muscogee County School District without express written permission of the school principal or superintendent is prohibited. Under no circumstances should funds collected from fundraising be commingled in any account with school activity or school system funds, except for the temporary safekeeping of monies collected and awaiting deposit. No money may be retained at any location. Monies collected for deposit must be deposited intact without altering its composition. Any questions?
You said Hall Booth looked at all these, right?
Yes.
Okay. You want me to?
This one actually even came from our audit information.
Just to be specific, Ms. Bloodworth, so normally, these are not put temporarily
Put your,
in any of those activity funds or school system funds. So that last sentence of the first paragraph, so in practice, do we usually not maybe temporarily put them in a school activity or school systems fund?
I'll look at that.
Yeah, because I don't think that's how this works.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Was the definition left broad for a reason when it comes to waste?
Waste was already in there, so I didn't change anything with it. It was only the theft portion. When we reviewed it, the fraud had everything in it, but we were talking about the fact that nowhere in here, we say it for ethics, per se. We talk about theft and define it, which is where this came from, but we already had fraud, waste,
So
et
did you
cetera.
only present then to Hall Booth Smith where you wanted to make revisions? Did they not just look at the entire rule?
Everything that you see here, they received. We used it from when we were talking about employee conduct. We went back to the board policy and said, what is here? And then we were talking about what we felt needed to be added. And that's where these came from.
So Hall Booth Smith looked at waste and just didn't worry about it, or were they shown waste?
They were shown it, but we had only really focused on what was missing.
You were asking them about specific things in the
Correct.
policy?
Right.
Okay.
Are there any more questions? Board policy, weapons on school property. As per Georgia law, individuals are barred from carrying or possessing any firearms within a school safety zone, any property or building owned by or leased to any elementary, secondary, or local board of education that is used for elementary or secondary education, at a school function or on a bus or other transportation furnished by the school. The only exception is law enforcement residing or transacting lawful business or visiting such residents located within a school safety zone in or outside a school building, school property, a school function, or school furnished transportation. Is there any reason that high school's not on there? Secondary, okay, sorry, my brain was not functioning.
I don't understand why after local board of education, it says that it's used for elementary or secondary education, because for me, that kind of makes it a gray area if our sports facilities are included in this or not. To me, that's kind of redundant. It seems like we could take that out,
We could,
to be clear.
I think this is actually cut directly from the Georgia state law around weapons, but we can absolutely modify it for
I
whatever
guess, I
we
think under
need.
here, it doesn't clearly jump out at me that like they can't bring them to the stadium.
Would that be
School
considered
function.
school property?
I get it says school function, but I would like for it to be, I mean, I think
Spell it
what
out.
we'd really like to say is any of our property. There's no reason what our property is being used for that nobody should be able to bring a
Okay,
gun.
so expand to all property. But delete, you said what portion
It's
did
just
you
that
feel
part
was
that kind of qualifies
duplicating?
it as being used for elementary or secondary education. To me, that kind of makes it sound like mainly a school, whereas I think, I get that we could say the football is part of education, but I think it would just be clearer if it didn't kind of limit that.
If this is the exact wording from the state law, I would only suggest adding something like including athletic facilities, because I don't want us to wordsmith the state law, but we can add the specifics that is being requested
Understand.
to be abundantly clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any more questions? Board policy, employee code of conduct. It is the policy of the Muscogee County Board of Education that all employees maintain honest, equitable, and professional relationships with students, parents, and other district employees. Muscogee County School District employees should always maintain a professional relationship with students both in and outside the classroom. Soliciting, encouraging, or consuming an inappropriate written, verbal, electronic, or physical relationship is strictly prohibited and subject to prosecution under state and federal law where applicable. Employees who violate this policy are subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination.
So this is all red, like we didn't have this already?
No, the last two we could not find them anywhere in our board
Nothing
policies.
about the consummating of an inappropriate or written or verbal, nothing?
No. We have wording around sexual harassment, but not basic expectations for employee conduct. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. Oh. And a lot of this is, the intent is to just make sure that we capture it somewhere so we can hold people accountable and say, see?
Are there any more questions? The last policy is the board policy BHB nepotism, and the addition is to the sentence, for the purpose of this policy section, immediate relatives are, so it's claiming, it's changing who immediate relatives are. Now it's going to include son-in-law and daughter-in-law. So it'll read, for the purpose of this policy section, immediate relatives are spouse, parent, step-parent, child, stepchild. And the new is son-in-law, daughter-in-law, brother, sister, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, father-in-law, mother-in-law, or grandparents. Any questions?
No.
Is there a reason we don't also say grandchildren? I mean, 'cause you had someone, it might be that their grandchild comes through that might be a employee.
Right, the list of immediate family members, as an example, with benefits, doesn't include that. When you have a bereavement, doesn't include that, but it does include son-in-law and daughter-in-law, which were not included in this
So you're
list.
making it consistent?
Yes.
I guess again, from a nepotism point of view, if I was, a head leader of the of the thing, and I was giving my grandchild could perceivably be somebody that I showed favoritism, just like all the other people in this group.
It could be. There's no issue with adding it. If you're all in agreement.
That's what, thank you.
You want to put your mic on, Ms. Butler? Your microphone.
Consistency with what Lori was saying, if you say grandparents, then it kind of implies grandchildren.
Which is exactly why the son-in-law and daughter-in-law were added, because brother-in-law and sister-in-law,
Right.
Okay, if there are no more questions, that concludes the board policy.
Just one more thing, let me back up to weapons. Do we want to also include other weapons other than the firearm?
I agree.
Possessing any firearm within a school safety zone?
Good catch.
Haven't we gotten in trouble before with that, though, trying to, define
So instead of,
I guess, how are we going to define it?
right, I was going to say, if we change that to, instead of firearms, change it to weapons, then you can do examples of knives.
If you change it from firearm to weapon,
And then define it with knives, firearms, et cetera. And I
The
get
length of the blade.
It's the length of the blade. We start getting into that. And,
the length of,
then just use the state statute for weapons. Okay, am I understanding what you're saying, Chief Art? No, he
No, he's
said,
saying the
he's saying
statute.
use the state statute. It's already in there,
then
correct.
it can make, what happens
Correct.
with scissors then? Go ahead. He's got to say it.
We can add additional verbiage, but changing weapons, firearms to weapons means that we're changing the definition of a school safety zone, right? And so we can add additional verbiage for our weapons policy, but we can't simply change firearm to say weapons, because there's a legal definition of what a school safety zone is, which is what's here. Does that make sense?
So
So we can
in this,
add
for
to
the
it.
school safety zone, I can have a knife?
And that's not barred in the legal definition of what a school safety zone is, no. So we can add to it for our weapons policy. We can absolutely add more verbiage to it. But if we simply take away firearm and replace it with weapons, then we're no longer in alignment with what the definition of a school safety zone is.
I get that. I'm just asking about a whole nother question now about, Ms. Buckner, hit your.
To include the state statute, as our chief just told us, which the state statute includes a number of things that could be identified as weapons. Chief, you want to speak to that? The state statute, we were talking about knives, and you said something about the state has a specific definition of knives.
In the state statute for weapons and firearms in the school safety zone. I believe it's 1611-127.1. I'll be happy to work with y'all, and we can make sure we get it.
That made it official.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna bring back some additional?
Yes, I can
Okay.
read back what I have. So the first one, first part is I'm going to define the definition between donation and gift, clarify that with examples. We're going to look at it going to potentially $100, but that anything above that would need to be disclosed or reported, and that during the school year, we'll take a look at whether holidays falls into that during the school calendar year. Then we're looking at the portion about retaliation, changing it from immunity to retaliation. Yeah, delete collected. That's what I have.
Okay, good.
Delete collected. I didn't say that. Then immunity, making sure that it's clear that it's not about being granted immunity for criminal activity, but to specify this is about immune from retaliation. So, we'll have to look at the wording. I just want to make a note to myself that that's what it was about. I'm going to talk to Janice about if there's a gap in time when you collect the money and then you have to take it to deposit, what happens with that. We'll also, for the weapons on school property, a few things have come up, expanding to include all property, with a phrase that talks about including examples, specific
The
examples.
state statute?
Yeah. So,
And
as
you
per
could-
state statute.
Yeah.
As per state statute.
I guess my one comment, sorry, back to the gifts, is, and I'm just speaking for me, others might feel differently. I am perfectly fine with the 50 for everybody else. It's really maybe a different paragraph for the teachers that has a lot of what we talked about tweaking. I don't know that we want to get into all that in regards to other, positions and stuff. I think it's mainly with teachers, or gifts from students and parents. Maybe I should say it that way.
Right.
It's students and
Actually
parents.
we talked about deleting parents and students, but I do want to revisit that because of the example that you gave about a parent gives $200.
Well, that's what I think, yeah, we could delete student and parents kind of from that paragraph, and then maybe have a new paragraph that more specifically addresses a higher threshold and kind of more expansion for gifts from students and parents.
That's the disclosure piece.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
No problem. And then we are adding grandchildren to the nepotism policy, and just to make sure that the weapons on school property is thorough and correct and complete, I will get with Chief Art. Is that everything?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes the policy committee. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tillery. Discipline Committee, Ms. Sly.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. There are no items submitted for the Discipline Committee.
All right, next we have our Property Committee. Ms. McCray will, gotcha.
Okay, the first item is the library report. Under here, it says to mark your calendars for May 11th. The Columbus Children's Book Festival will feature award-winning authors and illustrators, and there is an attached flyer that gives more detail about that exciting time at the library. Service stories.
And the costume characters are gonna be Biscuit and Bluey. Clifford is still hanging around, and Martha Speaks.
Very cute. And then the service stories, a couple of them are a 100-year-old customer visited our North Branch to ask help to use her new phone. That's wonderful. Children's Outreach has 6 deposit collection boxes and 3 storytime kits at area early learning locations in Muscogee County. Teachers are appreciative for the high-quality books and activities. While delivering a new box of books to a 2-year-old classroom, the teachers and the children all shouted, "Hurrah, new books are here." Just a lot of wonderful things going on at our libraries. Next would be 6.02, the museum report. It says, oh yes, we continue to progress on the renovation in March and are looking forward to the public grand reopening weekend when we will share the exciting changes that are occurred. On Saturday, May 4th at 10 a.m., there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony followed by activities throughout the day and evening. We will be open from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and on Sunday, May 5th from 1 to 5 p.m. These days include docent-led tours, a mystery scavenger hunt, collaborative art making, children's story time, food trucks, giveaways, and a Saturday night silent disco. There will be performances by local artists from the Rainey McCullers School of the Arts, Springer Theater, Youth Orchestra of Greater Columbus, Voices of the Valley, Columbus State University, and more. And then there are more activities on Monday, April 29th. And as a conclusion, our educational programs in March reached 1,939 people, which is really impressive given all the renovations. We continued our ongoing programs in partnership with schools throughout the Chattahoochee Valley, and we attended off-site events at Fort Moore and in Harris County. Public programs continue at Winton Road and W.C. Bradley Building. So thank y'all.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. All of the build-up surrounding the grand reopening of the museum is just increasing anticipation. So really looking forward to that. Next is the Personnel Committee. 7.01 is the superintendent recommending the appointment of Victoria Griffin to serve as the principal of South Columbus Elementary School. And 7.02 is the monthly personnel reports. You can peruse those at your leisure. And that concludes the Personnel Committee. And next we will have our Construction Committee with Mr. Cantrell.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Have we finished the personnel committee?
Yeah.
Oh, I have questions on the personnel report.
Okay.
Hit your microphone.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's right. We went straight through it. I was looking at the vacancies. I think there were, I left those notes at home. The vacancies between the general ed teachers, general ed paras, general ed, special ed teachers and special ed paras. I had it written down somewhere, but I don't have it now. So that totaled up to, y'all can see it. I don't have it right in front of me.
430.
Okay, so you add both of those. Okay, so I wanted to see if you could give me specific schools. How many vacancies are in Brewer, Dorothy Heights, J.D. Davis, and Fox? Well, the number of teacher and para vacancies in Brewer, Dorothy Heights, J.D. Davis, and Fox. Mhm.
Current vacancies?
Yes.
I'll get that for you, but as you know, we are currently in the process of doing the transition with transfers. As you know, we're in the process of the transfers, making sure that they land appropriately, and the Brewer population has until May 15th to be placed. So
Just asking for the currently right now, as of this day, what would be the current vacancies in those schools?
okay, and I can get that for you.
That's what I'm asking for. And so you say you're in the process, but you have not finished the transfer list in terms
No,
of being able to tell me how many people are on the transfer list from these students.
That I can give you the list of the number of people on, it's around 60, but I can get that for you, that were on the transfer list.
For
But
these
the,
particular students.
but where they've landed is still being discussed, because that takes until May 15th.
Okay, just the number of, I like that also.
Definitely, I'll send you both.
Thank you.
I'll send it to all the board members.
Mr. Cantrell.
Okay, moving on to the Construction Committee, Madam Chair. Arnold Modernization Change, Order Number 8, number 801. Arnold change order, the total change order is $78,729.48. This does not increase the board-approved budget amount because it comes from the owner's contingency. Any questions on 801, ladies? If not, we'll move to 802, middle school athletic field budget. Approve the overall project for Phase 4 athletic field upgrades, Midland Middle, at a price not to exceed $3,440,686, if I'm reading that correct. Is this, maybe somebody can help me, is all this money going to Midland Middle, or is this several fields out there? And is this 3 million what I'm reading also? Don't want to go red, does it, Travis? There he goes.
Yes, that number is correct, and it is for Midland.
Oh, that's for Midland?
Midland,
Okay.
that's correct.
Well, they'll appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Any questions on the Midland field? If not, we'll move to 803, budget, cooler budget, Kendrick High School. Approve the construction project bid for the cooler and freezer replacement at Kendrick High School in the amount of $218,000. Any questions, ladies? If not, we'll move to the next one. Contractor cooler replacement, Kendrick High School, number 804. Approve the contractor Smith Mechanical contract at $195,000, which comes out of the total budget of $218,000. Move to 805. Approve the construction project budget for the cooler and freezer replacement at J.D. Davis Elementary in the amount of $206,740. Any questions? If not, we'll move to item 8.06, approve the contractor H.J. Layfield contract at $177,000, which come out of the total price of the $206,740. And agenda number 807, the construction status slideshow will be presented at the end of our next meeting, next month. And that's, any questions? Madam Chair, that's all for the Construction Committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chambers. Finance Committee.
Okay. 9.01 is the board is being asked to approve a one-time retention and recruitment stipend for employees serving students at Dorothy Heights Elementary School. If approved, The stipend will be payable on August the 30th, 2024. It has a budgetary impact of approximately $200,000. The reason why Dorothy Height is the chosen school is because it's one of the only federally identified Muscogee County School District school designated as a 5-year CSI school. They have made gains 3 years in a row.
Correct.
And so what this stipend will do is, one, it will offer, act as an incentive for the current educators at Dorothy Height. Number two, it can be used as a recruitment tool. Number three, it will acknowledge the challenges and recognize the improvement over the last 3 years. Number four, it does align with the use of ESSER funds. That's where the money will come from. And number five, it's investment in education. Any questions about this particular stipend, board members?
If I may
I
just
have a
provide a
question.
little bit,
Go ahead.
more
Go ahead,
information.
Dr.
background.
Dr. Lewis, and then after Dr. Lewis, Ms. Buckner.
Okay.
All right, so keep in mind, this is kind of a continuation of what we started 3 years ago in looking at hard-to-fill schools at middle school level with Rothschild, Baker, and Eddy Middle Schools. It has proven to be successful in terms of our transfers this year. Based on our transfer list, we have 0 transfers requested out of Baker, 0 out of Rothschild, and 2 out of Eddy, so it's significantly improved that. We know that this is something that with ESSER funds, it will come to an end, but it's proven to be successful there. And we know, we certainly don't want to diminish the hard work that goes on in all of our other schools, because we know that our challenge schools, all of them face, but it comes down to what our funding availability is. And looking at this, and Dorothy Height is our only, as you mentioned, our only 5-year CSI school. It's one of our final schools that's on that 5-year list. And with the increased enrollment we're going to see there from the redistribution of students from the K2, pre-K2 initiative, we feel like it would be a good retention and recruitment tool. If it continues to prove to be successful, of course, that'd be something we'd ask you to consider how we might be able to, I know one of the concerns is sustainability long-term. One of our biggest concerns is we want to make sure that we give the school the traction that they have, and like these other schools are seeing from continuing their staff. Right now, Dorothy Height is looking at about 13 different vacancies for next year. If we can give them the opportunity of having a stable staff from one year to the next, we feel like with the improvements they've made the last 3 years, it will continue that improvement cycle and get them the best chance for them to be successful. So we certainly don't want to diminish the hard work that is going on, but we also know that 5 years of CSI is extremely difficult with the paperwork and the other things required by the state. But in no way is this to at all diminish what other challenge schools or hard-to-fill schools are facing at all. But we do feel like it, because of the fact that it is a 5-year status designation school and the fact that they have got the largest number of transfer requests, we feel like that those are the distinguishing factors.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
again, based on what we've done in the past, we just wanted to try and continue that at the elementary level.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. Ms. Buckner?
What are the 4 schools that will compose Brewer Elementary? The name those 4 schools.
So
Name the 4 schools, the 4 schools that will compose, that will make up the new
pre-K
through 2nd grade.
that would be Brewer, Dorothy Height, MLK, and J.D. Davis.
Okay, yes. It'd be Brewer, Dorothy Heights,
MLK, and J.D. Davis.
and J.D. Davis. Okay. So these 4 schools, how do we determine when a school has a retention incentive? The 4 of these schools are schools that we have identified were hard-to-fill schools, and they have been identified as, which in my mind, all 5 categories that you have given: retention incentive, recruitment tool, acknowledgement of recognition of sustained improvement, align with ESSA funding and investment in education. The other 3 schools qualify as well as the 1 school. As you said, we did the same thing for Rothschild, Baker, and Eddy. So collectively, we gave 3 of the middle schools. So why are we not collectively giving these 4 schools? I understand that the school has, is the only one that has the 6-year and the CSI category in itself. However, these other schools, if we are rewarding what the improvement that they have done, they have managed to come off of a list and not be on the CSI. They have been working hard. When did they get there? $3,000. And why are we not collectively giving the 4 schools as we did the, because certainly that's why I asked for how many transfers they had. What's their vacancy number? When the schools are reorganized, they certainly would use their schools will be bigger also. And they would need recruitment money to get teachers recruited for the increased size of their school. They would need some retention money also because all of them are in the same category, except one is slightly below the other. Now, and when I said that they have worked themselves off of that list, this is not to say that Dorothy Heights, who have been there 6 or 7 years, the leadership at Dorothy Heights should be commended because for the last 3 years, there has been steady improvement. So I'm not trying to say anything about that improvement. There has been steady improvement for 3 years. But what I'm saying is that I don't understand how I think we should collectively reward the other 3 as we collectively awarded Rothschild, Baker, and Eddy.
Let's give Dr. Lewis an opportunity to respond.
So those schools that came off the list did receive, based on the, what you all approved, did receive stipends for performance for coming off the list?
Okay, they received $3,000.
No, they received, I can't remember, was it $1,500 apiece?
Okay, so all of these schools received $1,500 when they came off.
Right.
All right, so is Dorothy Heights off the list?
No.
No.
But they yet are receiving $3,000.
But keep in mind, the criteria we used was they're the longest longitudinal 5-year CSI school.
They are.
The others are not.
I understand that category.
Okay, that's one. And then they have the largest number, I think, of 12 or 13 vacancies, whereas the other schools we're mentioning have a retention rate that is down. They only have, I think, anywhere between 3, 4.
We don't know because she couldn't
Yes, we
provide.
do. Yes, we do. We have that.
Well, she couldn't provide the information. I just asked for it.
Mr.
She
Bell
said she
has
didn't
it.
have it. Okay. Well, somebody should have given it to me when I asked for it. Thank you.
Will be repurposed, will no longer
I
be
know
a
about
school.
Okay.
So they come off the CSI list.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So those students will be redistributed
Yeah, in the
amongst
3.
the 3 schools.
So everybody has to recruit. All 3 of those schools will have a higher.
No, ma'am.
Okay. How's that?
Actually, the impact, Dorothy High will see an increase of over 100.
Okay.
Davis will see a similar increase. Actually, MLK will lose close to 100 students.
Okay, so they don't need to recruit. I mean, I'm just saying, they will not be receiving any new students.
We didn't say not receive, well.
They won't receive any new students because according to you,
Right.
when the population therefore of rural was from 3rd grade to 5th grade, that population was $300 because 200 is going to Dorothy Heights, 100 is going to, what was that other place?
Davis.
So from third grade to 5th grade, the population of rural was 300.
About that, yes, ma'am.
That was the population.
Very close to
because
it.
if they're not going to the other place, they're going to these. So so when we so now we have the so you're going to look up how many transfer vacancies in
Well,
those,
I
in
want
the
to
places
clarify
where?
one thing that you had said
and
earlier
trans-
were current vacancies. I thought you were asking when you said, and I clarified that, so maybe we misunderstood.
She asked for two things.
Yeah, the clarification was for the current vacancies versus transfer. Those are two different things, request for transfer.
Right, I asked for both of them. I said, when she got it,
And
she
we
was
can
gonna
give,
tell,
and
she
we
was
can
gonna
give
tell
you,
me.
we can give you the
she's gonna tell me.
transfers. We can't give you the vacancies. I can't
So,
right here without.
and then another question for, see, you say you're still working on that. So, my point is that, if you have, you say 13, we only know about one, because that's the only one that you gave me.
Here they are. We'll give
If,
them.
so the 13, so you say you're still working on it. So are these transfers going in county or out of county? And it should be noted that if they are going in county, they're going to get a lesser salary. The incentives it may not be a salary incentive that teachers want, because if they ask for a transfer within Muscogee County, they're going to get a lesser salary because they will not be getting the supplement for the hard-to-fill schools. So they will be getting a lesser salary. And if they're going to any other, Muscogee County pays more than all these surrounding counties around here. So the stipend, what is meant, what is said to be meant for the stipend to recruit and to retain, that fails if they are trying to get another job within Muscogee County. Now, I want Dorothy Heights to get their stipend, but I also want the other three. I also want the other three to get a stipend. They're in the same
not,
position. It's this one stipulation that you're talking about.
Two.
What's the second one?
The 5-year designation, they're the only
Right.
school, like I said before, and the
Yes,
second
yes,
one is the large number of vacancy, or not vacancies, transfer requests out of that school versus, and Mr. Bell can share with you what the others are as
Okay,
far as
so-
transfer. Can I let him answer that?
Okay.
Transfers?
Before I do, I just want to say this. With the extra 100 students comes 7 teaching positions.
Right.
And those aren't teachers. Those are vacancies that the principal will have to fill. So if your
Okay, so
your
that's-
question is how many teachers requested to transfer out of these schools, 4 schools, is that correct?
Yeah.
So Brewer,
Is it
every
se- the
student, every
seven-
teacher?
The 7 new teachers that are coming, which school of the 7, you got to find 7 teachers for?
For the 100 students that are coming to Dorothy Height,
Okay, 7 teachers.
the
Okay.
additional student.
And what about the other one where the 200 is going somewhere?
No, ma'am. Davis will realize probably about 100.
Oh, so
A little
Dorothy
over
Height is
100 as
getting
well.
Dorothy Height is getting the 200.
No, ma'am.
No,
They'll see an
100
additional
students.
100 students in grades 3 through 5.
Okay, which school is not getting any additional students?
MLK will lose approximately 98.
They will lose 98. So where were these, we discussed 300 students a few minutes ago. It was my impression that 200 was going to Dorothy Height and 100 was going to MLK. So tell me where these 300 students are going.
After we look at our numbers of the potential students who qualify to go back to Brewer for the pre-K through 2 initiative, that's the impact.
But we're pretty
I'm gonna
much
s-
talking about 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Third,
These are
fourth,
the
and fifth.
students that we're
Dorothy Height will realize an extra 100 students in those grades, and those
Okay.
are tested grades.
100.
Those impact the GMAS. Those students take GMAS. So with those 100 students,
So
Ms. Adams was given basically 7 more vacancies to fill.
okay,
At the same time, she has 15 teachers who are on the transfer list. So if all those teachers transferred out, we would have over 22 positions to fill.
TN2, okay? So they're getting 100, Dorothy Heights. J.D. Davis, they're getting 100?
They'll realize about a little over 100.
So
Additional
that'll be
students.
7 teachers too. And what's their vacancy now?
Well, as far as their number of teachers requesting a transfer, Davis had 4.
They have 4. Okay. And Davis?
And the extra students will require additional teachers.
Oh, he got 7.
Yes.
I put 7 in there.
At Davis as well, or just Dorothy High? She's out,
Both.
she's talking about Davis. I'm trying to help you keep up.
At both schools.
Okay.
And so what about Davis? We got Dorothy Heights, and then the other one is MLK.
MLK will lose about
They
90
lose
students.
98.
So currently,
So between, so you're saying, that's just 200 students. So between Dorothy Heights, all 4 of these schools, they only had 200 third grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade students. Because you only identified 100 going to Dorothy Heights, 100 going to, so these 4 schools only had 200 third grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade.
no ma'am, some of these students will be going back to Brewer because we're going to award them an assignment to the new pre-K through 2 center.
Okay, so Brewer will have some third grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade.
No ma'am, they'll have pre-K through 2.
Yeah, I'm talking about third grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. How many students did we have in, how many students do we presently have in the third grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade that attend MLK, that attend
Dorothy High.
MLK, J.D. Davis, Dorothy Heights, and Brewer?
Where your 5th graders will be moving on to 6th grade. So
Okay.
you take them out of the equation. So it's about 300.
So they move, okay, so what happened to the other 100? 100 is going to Dorothy Heights. 100 is going to Dorothy Heights. 100 is going to J.D. Davis. Where's the other 100 going? What school is the other 100, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers?
My math may be off, so.
It's way off. We don't know where 100
Right.
students going. Okay, so,
I can't get you on hold 1 second. Turn it off. Now turn it back on. There we go.
Thank you so much. Just for the sake of time and just for clarity, because I think you're losing a few of the board members as well as the staff, can you, if you have an additional recommendation or if you have a problem with this recommendation, since we're talking about retention and recruitment supplements, can you
okay, so
express?
here's my position.
Yes.
And I think that I have been clear. And I think that I should have been able to be followed by, with common, people who could, I have been very clear. But this is what my position is. My position is, all of the students that have, in these 4 schools that have 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, they also should be getting a stipend. I don't understand why only just one of these schools is getting a stipend, and my position is that all 3 should be getting a position, and then we can move from here today. But I do want that, I have some more questions to send out to y'all on.
Well, this is the work session, and this is the place for the questions.
Right, I know.
So
But some of
whatever
those
the
questions, they're not
are,
going to be able to answer,
Correct, but
like how
she
many
needs to
students third
ask her
through fifth
questions.
and things like that.
She needs to ask her questions. Everybody
What
needs
is
to
your
ask their
question?
questions in the work session.
What's your question, Ms. Buckner?
I have asked my questions, and they, I think Mr. Bell, I think he gave me the transfers for, then you give me Dorothy Heights. You gave me the 12 that have requested transfers, and you gave me 12 plus 7. And then you gave me 100 going to, I think they were going to J.D. Davis. And so you said, so since that was 100 students, then I'm assuming that there are 7 teachers that you're needing for J.D. Davis. And I think they only have had 4 people requesting transfers so far. So what's the deadline on requesting transfers?
It's over.
Okay. What's that deadline? For requesting transfers. What's the deadline for requesting transfers?
That's already closed.
Okay. And what was
Requesting
that?
transfers were closed, but Brewer remained open, as well as Mary A. Buckner, because it's converging. Those have until to place all of them for the new school year by May 15th. They will
Okay,
have
and the
placed.
deadlines for transfer, what was that deadline?
That was back on March 29th.
March 29th. Okay.
And I do have that you asked specifically, and I think I misunderstood your question. There, in the list of the transfers, the number of teacher transfers, you asked for Dorothy Height. There were 12, plus there were the vacancies. You heard that part. Martin Luther King, MLK had 15, but everybody has, all the vacancies were filled, and 9 of them were specifically interested in the K2, which brought it down to only, it was
But there were
originally about
15
4.
transfers.
But they were all filled, so all
Okay.
of that was taken care of.
Right,
You
but they
also
still had,
asked about.
which meant that they're, at that point, that wherever that third, their students, is that the one that y'all didn't have, that they didn't send anywhere, y'all put them down to the, okay, what happened to the MLK third, fourth, and fifth grade students?
So these, this doesn't, you asked for transfer numbers, I was just giving you transfer numbers,
Okay.
so I can't say specifically about this,
What
the
happened to
number
the
of
third,
students
fourth,
switching.
and fifth grade students from MLK?
They would be
Hit your mic,
dispersed.
sir.
Is that 100 that's leaving there? Where are they going?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Bell on that. He's been working with some of that.
I can send you the impact report for each school, and it's a projection.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll do that for next
Sure.
week. I'll just make sure I get that information, and I'll try to send you whatever else, other questions I have. But specifically, Ms. Chambers, I'm still trying to see why these other schools, these other hard-to-fill schools, are not getting some type of stipend just as this one school is.
But I will say, the only thing is I will show, based on the data we have from the transfers and those have been filled, they are not designated as hard to fill now by virtue of the fact that they don't have the transfer requests.
Are we paying, are they still getting paid for hard-to-fill? What are we doing?
No.
Okay,
They're just choosing to go there.
okay, so we don't have any when we started hard-to-fill schools, okay, so when did we stop awarding these hard-to-fill schools?
We haven't stopped. The ESSER funds conclude at September
Okay,
30th
so
of this year.
We didn't stop, the funds just ran out.
Correct.
So it's not like they all of a sudden
We have-
became so great and don't qualify this. It's just that we don't have the funds to do this.
That is true. What we're saying is, if you're talking about definition being hard to fill, MLK, JD Davis don't have the demonstrated need that Dorothy Height does, based on the transfer requests and those that have already been filled.
So we had a little bit ESSER money left, and we just gave it all to Dorothy. That's what it sounds like to me. We had a little bit left.
Right.
And we gave it to them instead of dispersing it among all of the schools, all of the other 3 schools.
Well, $200,000 between all those schools wouldn't go very far.
It will still make all those people, if you're talking about a stipend for rewarding, it will make that whatever.
Well, the
little bit,
recommendation is what the
whatever they can do.
recommendation is.
I know what the
you
recommendation
but
is.
The recommendation is as reads here.
And that's what we're discussing, the
Correct.
recommendation. And I have an opinion on the recommendation. I want to know why it was recommended. And to me, it has to make sense in terms of why it was recommended when other schools in the same category are not. What are we doing here?
There are
Why-
no
why-
other schools
we-
in
we-
the same 2 categories we're talking about here.
There's, with the transfers, then you said, I guess the retention means transfers. See, when she works on the transfer list, if they transfer and to go to Columbus High School, or this elementary, if they're transferring to go to one of these schools up north, let's say a school up north, and if they want to go there, if they're on the transfer list, the stipend is meaningless. It's just the particular school that they want to go to. They may not just want to work at a certain school. So the transfer, the stipend would be irrelevant if you're just transferring because you don't want to go to certain schools. And then our system should look at other factors within the school in terms of why these people want to transfer, other than the stipend. We should be looking at everything in the school. Why would these teachers want to transfer? And do we have any other, what's the transfer list of Forest Road? Do we have that information? How many people trying to transfer? Let's see if they get a stipend. Do we have any other high transfer, and are they getting a stipend?
Me too, but you go ahead.
It's Brewer, Dawson, and St. Mary's.
Huh?
The entire staff at those schools
Yeah.
that have
We
been
know.
repurposed. Dorothy Height is the highest, followed by Martin Luther King Jr. 9 of those transfers from MLK wanted to follow their principal to the K2, pre-K2. Next was Hannon with a total of 8. South Columbus 6. Forest Road had 5. 4 teachers and 1. Another CSI school, a first-year CSI school, was Georgetown, and they had 3.
Okay. So, and also, so I think we're saying transfers. Did y'all also consider vacancies in your retention recruitment thing? See, because not only should transfer be considered, if we're looking at a school, but y'all gonna send me that later, how many vacancies are in these schools that I just, or do you have that right with you? Okay, vacancies.
Vacancies is, the specific number of vacancies is the part that I have to give you. That's not taken into account here. What was being taken into account was the fact that you have a school that's been on the CSI list for 5 years, and their stability is being threatened because there's so many on the transfer list in combination with what they're experiencing, unlike the situation of others. So there's a level of equity that we're looking at, not just a level of fairness of who gets what, but who needs the help right now. And this was one of the manners in which we chose to do that.
Equity in terms of the stipend. That's what we're looking at.
Not
Right,
equal,
which is what I'm
equitable.
I said equity, that's what we're looking at.
Yes.
Equity.
Well, equal would mean everybody gets the
I know
same
what-
thing.
I know
Equity would be what
equal-
you need to
I
be
know what
successful.
equity, but
Okay.
I'm saying
I've
even
been
here,
waiting
equity,
very
that's what we're looking for. And also, I'm not sure what the district is determining.
Miss
in some
Tillery is
reason.
already.
You should also
Yeah,
look
Miss
at how many
Tillery is waiting
vacancies
as well.
at these schools, in terms of whether they are, hard to, whether we need some retention and recruitment. Why do we have all these vacancies? Why do we have retentions? But if I could just, I'll just ask for whatever information I want later. And
I'll give you the specifics of
Okay.
the vacancies,
Thank you.
all of you by email.
Okay, by next, early in the week.
I'll
Early as
plan-
possible.
Yes, I'll be planning to give this to you by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Dr. Lewis, did you have something else you wanted to add before Ms. Green? Did you have
No,
something as well?
I'm just responding. I just want to make sure I address
Okay.
that. Like I said, I just want to make sure we are just trying to take the funds that we had available without going into any additional ESSER funds we would use for this initiative. Whatever we do as far as expanding, it would mean we'd be dipping into our summer learning experience. And we've allocated about $6 million for that, which is about what we've used over the last couple of years and what we're projecting to use this year. So we just went with what we know we had available to us in that $200,000, and we just felt like that this was the
Best
right
use
amount to
of the
use
funds.
for that purpose. To diffuse it, we can, certainly diffuse it across other schools, but then you're getting it down to where it may not be as enticing to keep people or to attract people. So that was our premise, but, and we use that on the basis of what we did with the pilot for the 3 middle schools that I mentioned earlier, which was Baker, Eddy, and Rothschild. and that's proven to be successful. Again, sustainability is always an issue, and that's why we're using ESSER funds, and I realize that. But if this is successful, and the board and the administration all agree that this turns out to be successful, then it will become a budget priority for us to look at how we might continue to fund that for our hardest fail schools across the district, whatever we define that to be.
Sure.
So I just want to talk about what I always talk about, and that is consistency. We have more than one CSI school. None of them are 5 years. And unfortunately, Dorothy Height was not included with the 3-year that we did for the middle school, since they were already at year 2 or 3 when that incentive was granted. And so if you look at what we did with secondary, that was over 3 years. They had to commit to staying there 3 years, because if you're only going to dump this money for 1 year, Dorothy Height's going to be in the same position with people transferring out at the next school year. And I don't see how we're going to be able to measure anything other than we just, incentivized one location. I do like consistency and having balance when we are talking about incentivizing and retaining staff. We need a time period other than the 1 year. They need to commit to staying there past the 1 year, and the teachers who receive the $1,500 are no longer going to have that because they're at their 3-year period, and you're going to see some retention issues. I anticipate seeing some retention issues once that stipend goes away, and they only got $1,500. And so if you can commit this $3,000 per person with a time period beyond the 1 year and be consistent like you did with secondary, and include more than one school, because I knew once that agenda hit that we were going to be getting calls, and hopefully I wasn't the only person getting a phone call about what about me. We have to be consistent. I think that something needs to be done to incentivize Dorothy Height, but also the other CSI schools and the hard-to-fill schools. Y'all just showed us a list with averaging 290 vacancies at multiple schools. And so those teachers have been splitting up classrooms and working hard. Subs won't show up. We've done everything to pay subs more money, and they still won't go to the hard-to-fill schools. So hard-to-fill schools is not occurring. It's just not at just one location. And we know that because you presented it to us twice in the last couple of months. So I just need some more thought put into this, incentivize, and do the retention with Dorothy Height plus some whoever else.
Thank you, Ms. Green.
I wasn't finished.
Oh, okay. You were about to press your button.
Ma'am? What'd you say? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead and finish.
So in addition, I got to get my train of thought back. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we're sending the right message to employees. We don't want to say we're going to figure out and come up with some money and impact the budget to keep you to stay. You can just say no transfers because we're having to keep people or to maintain a crisis without paying anybody anything. You can just not do transfers, or at least, since we're at this point, look at how you do transfers. But I think that it's important that we remain consistent in how we look at retention and make sure that we're including not just one group or one school of a group of people. I think that's going to be an approach. Thank you so very much, Ms. Chambers.
Thank you, Ms. Green, for your comments and your opinion. Ms. Tillery.
Sorry, I just have, mine's not going to be long. One was the current vacancies, so I'm glad that you're going to send us that information. And for the elementary schools, how many of the CSI schools do we have? That's 3. We have 3. And then because we've been doing it for 5 years, it's been the longest. Is that correct? And from what I was told, it was because of all the paperwork and all of the extra work that they have to do, and then you have to train them when there's new, because currently there's 22 people they're going to have to train on this process. Is that right? Is it a long, lengthy process that they have to do for this? For the CSI?
They're already doing it, right?
Yeah, but if they're leaving, the new ones, I think that's what I was told, is that it's the training and it's the paperwork and it's the understanding so that we can possibly get off of this list because we've been on it. And they're right at the cusp of getting off of it. So that's what I thought. I thought that they were in a different category that missed out last time. And so this time we were trying to do it to give those teachers just a little bit of encouragement to say, if you'll stick it out with this for a little bit longer, maybe we can reach these goals and not have to train 22 new people how to fill out the paperwork, how to do the documentation, and how to write. Is that right?
Mr. Bill?
If we could keep the right pieces in place, we're this close to breaking through. We're this close because they're doing the right work. And the right work is not easy. Nothing against any other school in the district. From Key to Aaron Cone, it's all hard work. But it's a heavier lift. In 2022, Meredith Adams took over. She replaced 29 staff members that first year. A lot of them wanted to go with their principal, Dr. Sheffield, for good reason. The very next year, she replaced 33. We'd like to reverse that trend, and this would help.
You finished, Ms. Tillery?
I just want to say thank you for that information. And when you do turn over those first 2 years, it's hard to build relationships, and it's hard to have that stability with the community of the school. So, I mean, I was just making sure I had my information correct when I was told about it, so I was just clarifying.
So that if it's all that much learning to do.
Ms. Buckner, can we hold 1 second? Because Lori has had her light on, and we'll go to Lori.
Before hers,
and
but I
then-
have spoken before.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
haven't
Thank
spoken
you, I
this whole
appreciate
time.
that. Yes.
I think what would be helpful for me is if, because, and I know we've talked about it and we've heard it, but I'm kind of a visual. If we could get a little summary of all these supplements we've done in the last kind of 5 years, who they were targeted, for how long, what the parameters were, just again as a reminder for us, and probably in correlation with that, you know, how those schools have performed, what has done. Because I am very much a parameters person, and to me, this sounded good because it set a specific parameter of who was receiving the money. It concerns me if we start making changes because some people call and say, why am I not getting it too? Because I think that could ripple out, you know, very far to some of these schools that have never gotten any of it. But I fully agree that we need to help boost the areas that need it the most. But I do like the parameters. I felt like this had one, but it would help me if I could kind of be reminded of who's gotten money for how long and for what reasons and how they've kind of performed.
Does that include do you want, just for clarity, make sure, so that includes everything we've done for recruitment and retention, as well as the performance, like when they came off, so all of those different things that came out of ESSER funds for that, okay.
Right,
I just want to make sure we're getting it right. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Buckner?
What Mr. Bill has said and responding to Mrs. Tillery regarding all of the paperwork and all the things that have to be done at this school. So Ms. Bell has said we're just a little far away from them getting off of this list. So to be consistent then, if we are just that little to get off of that list, then those teachers should stay there more than just 1 year. This incentive should go 3 years, just like the other 3 schools. Their incentive went 3 years. If we are trying to retain the teachers, if that's what y'all have been saying, that we have to retain the teachers and we're just a little bit away from getting off the list, then the incentive should go for 3 years as it did for the other 3 schools. And therefore, if it went for 3 years, then those teachers will have to stay at that school 3 years, and then we can actually see what the progress is, and there will be no transfers or for these teachers, they can work cohesively together for a number of years, which will bring the prospects of success, make it more brighter.
I do want to add one other thing. If you're going to bring into account the number, how people transfer out with leadership, you're going to have to look at that, because that's something that happens when principals leave. I mean, you will see that same kind of movement
All the time.
that's consistent with people wanting to be with the leader, or maybe not want to be with the leader, but be with the devil that you know, because you don't know what's coming. So you would see that kind of flight or movement. In other words, that's not anything that is unique. I think just to make the point of what we're looking at currently in comparison to what we've done as far as an incentive and retention for those schools that had to be committed 3 years. So I just think $3,000 spread over 3 years would be something consistent with what we've done. If you want to compare that, you just have to be consistent for me.
Is that you, Ms. Buckner, again?
Yeah,
or is that?
That's me. I want to be clear. I know we're fixing to move off this point. I want to be clear on one thing, because I see the principal at Dorothy Heights. I want to, I think I said this, but I don't want it to get lost, that we know that school has been on that list for 6 or 7 years. I don't want it to get lost that we know for the last 3 years that school has made steady improvement. I want to make sure I'm not trying to talk about Dorothy Heights per se. I'm not, and I'm not talking about them getting the incentive. I'm trying to include others. And if we do have an incentive, if we want to do stability, the best way is to get assign some number of years there.
Turn your mic back on. You finished? Dr. Lewis, did you want to add something?
Well, you go ahead, and I'll just have a closing statement.
Well, my mic is still on because we're under finance still.
Yeah.
So you go right
Okay,
ahead.
I didn't, did you have anything under
We're
this
still
one?
on 9.01.
Okay. I didn't know if you had any comments about
No,
this. Okay,
go
great.
ahead.
So just to go back to, again, this is not about comparing schools to one another. It's about going through and trying to do what we can with the funds we have available.
Right.
I was looking at what was available that was uncommitted out of our ESSER funds, that was not dedicated to summer learning experience. That's the only reason we looked at this, and this was our biggest school that had the biggest number of vacancies, and the rationale behind why was the 5-year CSI designation, and they had the largest number of transfer requests. It was just that simple. As I said earlier, I recognize this is hard work, especially in any of our hard-to-fill challenge schools. It's all hard work. And if money were not
An option.
an option, or not an,
I'm trying to look up hard to feel school.
well, that wasn't it. But,
Definitely not.
just working on we've done some really good work at Dorothy Heights. We've done some great work at, all of our schools, especially like we've seen Rothschild, those schools coming off the list, several others. But it is difficult when you don't have the consistency in your staff. And that's simply, I think we all want that. And we want to try and make sure that we have that continuity so that the school is not starting over every year with a third of the staff or more that's having to go through these various training sessions with State Department or with our staff or whatever. That's what creates that churn and burn, along with the paperwork and so on, that is so difficult for these schools. And so we were just looking at, with the funds that were available, how could we do something to help this one school who's been improving? Not to say that the others aren't and all that, but I do want to remind everyone that those schools that did come off the list, they did get an additional pay for performance, if you will, for lack of a better term. So if there's a way to sustain something long-term, I would love to do it. And certainly if this is something that the proof of concept we saw in those first 3 middle schools could be then extended to beyond that, and that becomes a budget priority from you all and from our administration going forward, that's how we would sustain it, because we would have to incorporate that into our budget planning. But again, right now, we just don't know what our budget numbers are, so it's hard for me to commit beyond until we receive our funding from the state. But with the funds we had available right now, that $200,000 that was left over from some of our ESSER expenditures, that's where we are. The rest of it is encumbered and dedicated for our summer learning experience, so that's where that came from. And I know we all want the same thing. Right. It's just about how do we get there. And I'm just trying to look at what we can do at this particular one school that has been our longest running challenge school, and had the highest number of transfer requests. So that was the basis on which that was. If I could do it for everybody, I'd love to do it for everybody. But I'm just trying to be a good steward of the dollars and look at where I could get the most bang for the buck, so to speak. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. I think we've heard from just about every board member on the subject, but I do want to thank you for trying to do something to sort of stop the bleeding at Dorothy Height. And I do think that Lori had a very good point, that if we can sort of refresh our memory on which schools received the retention money before, and what were the parameters for those schools, that will help us put this particular item in perspective. So thank you so much for bringing that to the board for our consideration. Any other questions, board members, about 9.01, the retention and recruitment supplement? Hearing none, I'm going to go on to 9.02, which is the budget parameters. Of course, you know we will be voting on the budget coming up, I believe, in June, and the parameters are outlined in the attached document. Are there any questions about the parameters? We talked about this once before, a few weeks ago, I believe. Ms. Buckner, your mic.
I was just commenting on that added money for dual enrollment. I know the state gives it, but I just thought about it, because at one time they had kind of drawn back from that. Yes. So I like the added money to do dual enrollment.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments about 9.02, the budget parameters? Okay. Hearing none, I'll go on to 9.03. 9.03 is purchase exception A and B. And the board is being asked to approve a couple of bids, and they are attached. Orange Boy Incorporated. And the quote is attached. This is $23,000. It's a web-based subscription for software. Any questions, board members? Okay, hearing none, I'll go on to 9.04, which is renewals. And attached, you will find the renewal for Columbus Automated Sprinkler. This is $80,000, and this is the backflow preventer device. Any questions about 9.04? Hearing none, I'll go on to 9.05. There are several items here that the superintendent is recommending that we approve. Everything from software to new helmets for the middle schools, renovations at Hardaway High School, cafeteria tables for our new school, Mary A. Buckner Academy, and also emergency equipment to be installed on the police interceptor vehicles. This is mobile communications. Any questions about that, board members? Okay, hearing none. 9.06. Attached, you will find a list of professional services. The superintendent is asking that we approve these. $230,000 to various professional services that will be provided during our summer learning experience. These will come from ESSER funds, and you see that list attached. Every Columbus State, Girl Scouts, Let's Grow STEAM, Springer Opera House. Any questions?
I do. It's the same question about the variation of the amount that these vendors are receiving. What is generating, who's generating that amount? Are we getting that from the vendor?
Is there someone from the staff that can speak to that? So Columbus State is 30,000, Fab Arts is 115. Tim is coming up.
Tim Smith, Federal Programs. Those numbers are based on what we spent last year for the community partners. So we're just projecting out the same amount.
So last
So what was
year-
the reason that they were different?
Well, it was based on, we had input from the community partners as to what they would like to provide. And so it just varied from partner to partner and what they were able to provide.
I guess my question, let me be clear, is again asking the question about the difference. There is such a gap in the service, the amount of this summer learning for these vendors.
Some of them are providing, like, for instance, Fab Arts is providing artists and residents that they contract with. And so they have higher costs than, like, for instance, Girl Scouts, we're paying for materials, we're not paying for services per se. So there's fluctuation there based on what their costs are to provide the service.
So my next question is, if Let's Grow Stream or Girl Scouts wanted to bring in services, were they offered the same opportunity to bring in these professional services individuals that would enhance the programming that they wanted to provide?
When we first started the community partners during the first year of SLE, every partner was provided with the same basically request. What are you able to provide? What will your costs be? And that sort of thing. So we just have followed that progression throughout.
Okay. Thank you very much.
To that point, is there ever a check-in so that the, what they're presenting is not the same year over year? Do we ever check in with them to see if they're going to provide the exact same service? Okay, you are.
So that is looked at, but it's also not provided for every student. So let's say Girl Scouts goes to Dorothy Height on Tuesday. Not every Dorothy Height is getting that experience, so they can't provide them multiple times because they're seeing different kids when they come.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for your clarity. Any other questions, board members, about the 9.06 professional services? Here, oh, I'm sorry, Lori.
I was interested in knowing what number 3 is, the 28,000 for some professional development, I think.
Number 3.
TESOL.
Oh, okay. SOL as a second language.
English as a second language. She said, and what is the call?
Mrs. Smith.
So TESOL is an international company that works with ESOL teachers and programs. We are looking at providing training to current ESOL teachers. We are trying to expand out the work that we're doing with regular classroom teachers who have our ESOL students in their classrooms during the day, because the services are limited to a small portion of the day, and those kids are in their classrooms throughout the rest of the day. So that's training for ESOL teachers to be able to work with the regular classroom teachers that they support in their schools and work through collaborative planning and providing supports to those students. We've seen a dramatic increase in the numbers of students we have. From last year to this year, we've seen about a 27% increase in our ESOL numbers. And so we're trying to be proactive because those are subgroups that can cause us to get on a state list at any given school. So we're trying to put some pieces in place on the front end to alleviate that from happening.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions, Lori? Okay. Moving right along, 9.07 is our sole source purchases. Things like fuel. Any questions about those? Okay, hearing none, I'll go on to 9.08. These are purchase order increases. There are 3 of them attached. One is for two are for transportation, and the other is for bus repairs. Any questions about that? Okay, hearing none, I'll go on to 9.09. The new budgets are attached for fiscal year 2024. This is for, let's see, Division of Teaching and Learning. There's $6,000 for computer science teacher equipment, and $526,000 for the summer transition program pre-K. Any questions, board members? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to 9.10, which is budget adjustments, and they are all attached. There are several of them. Okay, hearing no questions, I'll go on to 5.11, which are our financial statements. We receive those every month, and you will see that February is attached. And 9.12 are our donations. We want to thank the citizens of Columbus and the businesses that think it not robbery to feed into our schools and to make donations. Any questions? Hearing none, that concludes the Finance Committee.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chambers. Dr. Lewis, you want to give us a few updates?
Yes, thank you. Some great news we've received over the break and into today. The Columbus Space program that we have that is based out of Columbus High School but has students from various schools compete, as you know, in robotics. And very pleased to announce that they have been qualified to go for the most prestigious award called the Impact Award. They'll be going to the World Competition in Houston. So congratulations to them on that great recognition. Also, in the area of CTAE, we received today, you may recall that a few years ago we applied for and received the Georgia Department of Education's Economic Development Partnership, and we've been designated as a renewal. So congratulations to Victoria Thomas and her team. This is extremely important from the standpoint of developing stakeholder workforce for our stakeholders and so on, and economic development. So it's a very prestigious recognition for that renewal process. Also, Jordan College and Career, Jordan High School College and Career Academy has gone through a preliminary recommendation I sent you all in the form of an email that they are being recertified as a college and career academy. Also, in an email I sent to you this morning, very pleased to announce that Alexandria Lofton of Columbus High School had a historic selection as the first female from Georgia to compete on the Team USA's Junior Olympic National Flag Football Team. And she and her teammates will be competing in the Junior Olympics, and that'll be occurring in Los Angeles later this summer. So that's pretty neat, representing the state of Georgia and, of course, Columbus High School and the community of Columbus. So very proud of all those recognitions across the board, whether it's athletics, CTAE. You heard about our arts programs, lots of great things happening in our school district. Very proud of all of our students and teachers, so thank you.
That is awesome. Great to hear, and we will be recognizing next week. We'll be recognizing them all. So thank you so much for the update, board members. We do have an executive session for student appeal. Need a motion to go into executive session. Motion by Ms. Buckner, second by Mr. Cantrell. All in favor, wave goodbye. Raise your hand. Thank you so much. We're going into executive session.